Welcome to our first video of the new year. I am very excited because Dungeons and Dragons Wizards of the Coast, they finally released more information about the 2024 Monster Manual. This is a book that I've been looking forward to for a long time. I've been very outspoken about the fact that I think they should, or the opinion that they should have released this earlier. All of that aside, Jake and I are here to tell you about the 5 best things that they mentioned in that hour-long video. So let's get right into it.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to this J&J Tabletop video. My name is Jake, and with me, as always, is Josh. And some of the first thoughts and impressions I had about that video as a whole, Josh, they seem to speak about their experience with the Monster Manual throughout the history of Dungeons and Dragons with great reverence. It seemed to hold a really special place in the way that they approach the game. I don't know if you've said it in a video or not, but you and I have had conversations where you have said that the Monster Manual specifically, it basically touches every session of your games. And even if you don't have combat, a monster's presence is likely going to influence role playing or even the shopping episode that you have because they're trying to prepare for it. If you're going to talk about any of the books that are the most core to the game, I think you can make a strong argument that the Monster Manual is the most core. So as we go over this list that we put together, these are just things that they said in the video that they just had with Todd Kenrick and Jeremy Crawford and the other guy who honestly I forgot his name. You can let me know about that in the comment section. But whether they deliver on these things that they say or that they said, that princess is in another castle. But I'm here for it. I'm excited about the Monster Manual. We'll finally be able to get that complete product. So Josh, what's the first thing that we're talking about when we got excited?
Well, before I mention the first thing, I just want to apologize to the other guy because I also forgot their name. But I appreciate your work. I appreciate your excitement and your passion. It came through in the video.
All right, I'm a jerk. I get it.
First on the list, it might sound really boring, but there is going to be some sort of alphabetical table of table of contents / like a glossary type thing. And even as someone who I would say I'm fairly experienced in this game and in navigating a monster manual, sometimes I just want to look up a Rakshasa and just it's the letter R. I don't want to have to sift through all of the devils or demons. Is that a devil? Is it a demon? I don't remember. Fiend? Whatever they have it put in as. So I do like that organization for the book to have all of those kind of creature types together. But I think it's so helpful, so important, especially really for everyone, but especially for new DMs to be able to just find things alphabetically. So that's a huge win for me. That's number one.
Yeah, and in before someone that just says, we'll just go to D&D Beyond and use the search feature. You know what? That should always be available, but so should proper organization of a book. That's what exactly. That's the way it should go. The second thing that we have on our list, we actually just made a short about it, is that they kind of referenced an advice on running a monster. There's going to be a section to that. This section is supposed to give advice for how you can best implement the goals that you might have when you use a monster. I don't know if this section is going to apply to every single monster in the book. It absolutely should, in our opinion. But this is something that I'm at least excited. It has my attention. I would like to know how they envisioned the mechanics that they put together and the lore that they put together, how that's supposed to come together at your table. And I think that's something that a lot of dungeon masters could really, really appreciate when they run a monster.
And I think that's something that it was missing in previous books. So it was missing in the 5e books. We've seen it in previous books. And that's how you've seen blogs like The Monsters Know What They're Doing, which I don't even know if they still do the blog, but they have books now where the monsters know what they're doing. Those exist because the Monster Manual doesn't know what they're doing. So hopefully we'll see better explanations in there. One other thing that kind of ties into previous monster manuals used to do this is more tables and ideas to inspire creative narratives and uses of those monsters. And that's really exciting. It's vague, We don't know exactly what it means. We don't know how much detail there's going to be there, but I think any extra information there is helpful. Any extra tools are helpful, and what we included in that too is there's default treasure. Not every monster has it, which I think makes sense. But how great is that? I don't want to spend too much time on one item on the list, but I know for myself as a dungeon master, I'll spend all this time creating an encounter. It'll be a great encounter. It will go so well, and then the players are like,
let's search
what
for
did they
loot.
drop? And I'm like,
oh,
I didn't put any thought into that.
that's when you ever watch any of our gameplay and Josh goes, Jake, roll a d12. It's like that's how many gold that they had or whatever it is. We both did a weird adjustment in our seats at the same time. Anyway, we share a brain. But yeah, I'm excited about that too. I think anytime you can have all the information you need for that monster with that monster, that's just good. It's good to have random tables in the DMG that you could also reference, but that should be in addition to, not the only thing. One of the things I feel like I might be most excited about is that they reference this concept of having more options for more monsters and monster types throughout all levels of play. What does that mean? If you actually go back to my review of Kwood Publishing's Monsters of Phaland 2, I don't remember exactly the numbers that I set out there, but like the highest Fey creature in the regular monster manual was something like a CR 10. And there was like 2 or 3 options total that was in that range, and then that was it. That's not going to be the case anymore. They referenced filling out spaces, like instead of a Death Knight just having regular skeletons as their minions, when you're, a party that's fighting a Death Knight, that's just fodder. It's not really anything. They referenced a Death Knight aspirant that could be kind of like a lieutenant and might be something that the party that might be having a Death Knight as a big bad, that could be some kind of an earlier big bad they could encounter.
A lesser lich was kind of cool.
A lesser lich?
That's not what they called it, but
Lesser lich.
It rolls off the tongue nicely.
My name is Lester Lich. I don't know where we're going.
No, that's my cousin, Lester Lich.
Lester Lich, yeah. I need to make a Death Knight named Lester now.
There's weaker goblins, which I thought was interesting too, like because goblins are pretty weak, but they also, I think the number that they gave was if you want them to fight 12 goblins, have them fight 12 goblins. I'm interested to see what those stat blocks look like. I have to imagine, my suspicion, it's going to look a lot like minions in 4th edition.
They also talked about more vampires too, which I think is something that's cool, especially with certain projects that we may or may not have coming up for 2025. I'm looking forward to that as a dungeon master. And then Josh, you have here in our notes something more kaiju monsters. I don't think I know what a kaiju is.
That's like a Godzilla type thing. So when they were talking about the Tarask towards the end of the video, I want to say it was around like the 45-minute mark. Tarask is still the number one. It's still the biggest, still the strongest. But if we think of the Tarask as a Godzilla, more kaiju monsters are like Mothra, which is just, it's fun. It's exciting.
I know what Mothra is.
Do you not know? All right. Okay. This is, that's just crazy to me. So I mean, someone comment down below and tell Jake what Mothra is, or Mecha Godzilla, or any. Should we
now that one I can
night?
Get from context.
Let us know if you want us to figure out a way to do a movie night in like the Discord or something like that, and watch like an old Godzilla movie. Huge sidetrack.
Yes.
On the topic of more options for more monsters and more monster types, we have an Archhag was mentioned. That's super exciting. Hags are great. I think previously the way to like level them up was to do like a coven. I think also the Anus Hag, the Anus Hag was a higher a higher CR.
Yeah.
But typically you would have to have multiple for them to pose a challenge for a higher level. So it's cool. I don't know what Archhag will mean, but it's cool to see.
Another thing that I got very excited is that they seem to place an emphasis on finding and using mechanics that could better reflect a certain kind of fantasy threat that monster might be. And the example that they used was vampires being particularly, I believe the phrase was difficult to pin down. And they just cited that a vampire spawn just doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. That's a really just a thing that's going to make them dangerous. I mean, we have a whole series on the action economy, and we had a whole video on how incredibly powerful movement and the mobile, now named Speedy Feet, is. Having Speedy Feet. I get it. It's fun. But being able to move around the battlefield without the same kind of consequences that other creatures and combatants have to go through, that's incredibly powerful. That's a big reason why rogues are strong. And I'm excited to see what other kinds of things they came up for other monsters. And I don't know, that's the kind of thing that just, it's going to freshen this up. And I felt like 5e could use that.
When you say freshen things up, that also reminds me that they did spend some time talking about updated mechanics to surprise players who were really familiar with the 2014 handbook. They really want you to try to fight a Tarrasque at range. I don't know how many people... Have you ever fought a Tarrasque? Let us know in the comments. I've never fought a Tarrasque before. I think I might have commentated on a Tarrasque fight once. I genuinely am not sure. It feels like a fever dream.
Yeah.
But those are our 5, obviously. One question that I have, is there a new CR system?
Did they say that in the video?
They hinted at it earlier on. And then at the 8-minute mark, they talked about new standards for how they work the CR system. And everything that we've seen so far, whether it's like familiars or beast forms and that kind of stuff, animal companions in Player's Handbook, DMG, or anything else that's come out, it's looked almost exactly the same as their 2014 counterparts with the same CR. I'm curious to see what they think reworking the standards means. I don't know. Hopefully it's better.
These are lots of questions because that was just a big hype video because it was like an hour long. But it was something that we've been looking forward to this monster manual for a long time, because all the changes, all the power creep we've seen has had no place to compare it to until, was it the end of February when this comes out? Unless you're spoiled and you got an advanced copy and can make videos before we could. But what makes you excited about this? I want to hear about that in the comment section. Did they mention something we didn't? Just because we didn't doesn't mean it didn't get us excited. Just didn't make it to the video.
These are the 5 best things.
Objectively, they're best.
Objectively.
Because we said so. We made a video on hags, right? If people wanted to look at that.
I genuinely don't remember. I keep thinking that, I don't know, creature features were a lot of fun. We're going to bring them back once the new monster manual comes out.
Oh, definitely.
I don't remember if we've made a video on hacks yet.